Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another video, and as you can see by today's title of the video, I'm going to be running through some players that I think would be brilliant signings for Chelsea. Now nearly all the players I'm going to be talking about today haven't been linked to Chelsea at all, really. These are just players that I prefer watching, I enjoy watching on the football pitch, who play for different sides, who I think would be brilliant signings, and I'd love to see them in a Chelsea shirt in the future. But before we get into any of that, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also, hit that like button if you're enjoying the content, because it helps out the channel as well. But let's get into it firstly with Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish is a player I seriously admire. I think his leadership qualities have come to the fore in recent years as he's matured as a player. I think helping them get back to the Premier League, going down to the Championship, having those few years of development when he originally struggled in the Premier League to adapt when he was a younger player, maybe did a few things that were immature. But I think watching him on a football pitch is not only about his class and quality, which we'll get to, but I also think, yeah, that leadership, that character, that strength of character, where you really feel like he's dragging Villa sometimes. You know, Villa, of course, still in a relegation battle. Chelsea will be playing them in a couple of weeks. And seeing Jack Grealish earlier in the season firsthand at Stamford Bridge, I think, for me, one of the best performances I've seen from an opposition player this season at Stamford Bridge. And I think, you know, 8 goals, 7 assists speaks for itself. His stats in terms of chance creation and being a real influence on Aston Villa. The guile, the ease on the ball, such a joyful player to watch at his best, drifting across the pitch. Now, in truth, Chelsea have a pretty stacked midfield. We're going to have to get rid of some midfielders, especially the type of midfielder that Jack Grealish is, for him to really have a chance at Chelsea. You look at him, Mason Mount, Loftus-Cheek, Mateo Kovacic, all types of players that could play more attacking roles. And I think the realistic chance of seeing Grealish and Mount and Loftus-Cheek play together is for England, hopefully on the international stage. But Grealish for me is a character, especially seeing how he's worked under John Terry, with John Terry playing for him and now being a coach at Aston Villa, speaks volumes to the type of character he is. So I think he'd be an amazing signing for Chelsea. I think now getting used to the Premier League, I think even if Aston Villa go down, I think a big club will go in for him. And even if it's not Chelsea, I think he's going to be a key player in the Premier League for the next couple of years. So Jack Grealish is the first player I think would be a brilliant signing for Chelsea. Next is Bayern Munich Serge Gnabry. Now Chelsea know all about Serge Gnabry because he basically ripped us to shreds in that Champions League tie back in February. But I've been following Gnabry's career since his earliest days at Arsenal. I was always impressed and always thought he was going to be a big player, maybe in the Premier League, maybe for Arsenal. And we talk about Chelsea dropping the ball with young players like Kevin De Bruyne in the past. I think it really goes under the radar and isn't spoken about enough how much Arsenal and Arsene Wenger dropped the ball with Serge Gnabry, allowing him to leave so easily, not allowing him much of an opportunity at Arsenal. And I think they're paying the price now. They've paid so much for Nicolas Pepe, they've paid so much for other attacking players which really haven't improved their squad. And I think Gnabry would have been that player in answer if they would have given him more time. His productivity, his pace, his brilliance in one-on-one take-ons with opposition players. He reminds me so much of Eden Hazard, the way he glides across the pitch, and that world-class ability is something we've lacked since Hazard walked out the door. And I think Gnabry now at Bayern Munich, really finding his home there, really finding his feet, getting better by the minute in a really classy Bayern Munich side. He's now sort of taken up the Robin role of being on the right and cutting inside and shooting with his left. Now Chelsea have been linked with a player like Jadon Sancho. Sancho is going to be a brilliant player, but if you were to ask me of one player Chelsea should go out and spend fortunes on, it would be the German Serge Gnabry, because I think this player is only going to get better. I think his figures are going to get better. I think he's going to become more dangerous, more prolific, and I think he will be considered one of the best wingers in a year's time. Next is a left back. Now we talk a lot about Ben Chilwell signing for Chelsea and that being Chelsea's first choice target, but in my opinion, I think the best choice here would be Alex Grimaldo from Benfica. Grimaldo is similar age to Ben Chilwell, so in terms of that, in terms of a player still coming into his best years, you've got that with Grimaldo as you would with Ben Chilwell. Progressive passes, assists. Some of the numbers Grimaldo has put up this year have competed with Andrew Robertson at Liverpool, just to show you how good and effective Alex Grimaldo is. And Lampard is looking for balance. He's looking for productivity. He's looking for more end product with his fullbacks next season, along with Reece James. And I think Grimaldo, for me, in terms of class, in terms of quality, in terms of what he's actually doing consistently, even at quite an early age, I think that's super impressive. And I think Grimaldo, even if he doesn't arrive at Chelsea this summer, I think we'll eventually get a massive move somewhere from Benfica. And I think he's going to become one of the world world's top left backs in the coming years. So Grimaldo has always impressed me, especially in terms of just his numbers rather than just the naked eye. I think that really impressed me when we look at Alex Telles, Ben Chilwell, Tagliafico. My preference has always been Grimaldo, and it doesn't look like Chelsea are getting anywhere close to signing him this summer. But he's a player I really admire and think would be a brilliant addition to Chelsea's squad. And lastly, we're going to finish up with another Premier League player, and a player I think is massively underrated or forgotten in the Premier League, Emmy Buendia from Norwich. Buendia, once again, a bit like Grimaldo, his stats really show how good he is. Now, a lot of people would dismiss Buendia because of the club he plays for, but when you actually look at his stats, when you actually look at the impact he has for a team that's struggling in the relegation zone at the moment, they are absolutely incredible. Squawka posted an article back in December analysing his performance against Wolves, where he was matching some of Eden Hazard's best numbers in the Premier League for 9 take-ons and 9 chances created in one Premier League game. He created 29 chances in 1 month in December, more than any other Premier League player since records began. He's competing with Trent Alexander-Arnold and Kevin De Bruyne for chances created, despite playing for a side in the relegation zone. And if Norwich do get relegated back to the Championship, I think it would be ridiculous for him to still be a Championship player next season. I think a Premier League club has to go in for him, and it's such a shock to me that not more bigger clubs are going in for him and thinking about him. Chelsea will probably need a wide player if both Willian and Pedro leave, and yes, even with Timo Werner coming in, I still expect him to be one of those strikers, even if he can play wide. So Chelsea are going to still need to invest in that area, and I think potentially you could get the 22-year-old for a decent price, a player who has already proven his usefulness in terms of chance creation. And maybe, yes, we've already sort of filled that role of Hakim Ziyech coming in, but I think still a young player, you know, Hakim Ziyech, 27 years old, and for the price Norwich originally paid for Buendia, they're going to make a tidy profit when they do sell him. I think this would be a brilliant option as sort of a rotational winger that can come into the best years of his career alongside young players like Christian Pulisic and Callum Hudson-ODOI. I think for me, Buendia has been really forgotten this season, and I think his numbers speak volumes to his talent, and in a better, more productive side, those numbers will only improve in my opinion. So yeah, Emmy Buendia is the last player I think would be a great signing for Chelsea in the future. So that is it for today's video. Please let me know your opinions on the players. I spoke about players you'd like to see come to Chelsea that necessarily haven't even been linked with players you enjoy watching from rival teams. Please let me know in the comments below. But thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea. Have a great day, and I'll see you again.